Please be seated. Once a week we say, "Thy kingdom come." What are we looking for? Several billion people are probably going to say those words today at some time or other as they pray the Lord's Prayer. I chose Ezekiel as the reading for today, the Old Testament reading, because I was in a study group in Virginia, and we did the less well-known prophets, and I was assigned Ezekiel, so I gave a book report on Ezekiel. Very interesting prophet. He began his prophecy in 597 BC with the exiles in Babylon. His message today promises the restoration of Israel in the Promised Land by saying that just with a tip of a tree that he would plant in a mountain, he could restore what was right and just. And then my favorite part of this is God said, "I will do this." God has done this before, planting Joseph in Egypt so that a starving Israel could survive from starvation. He planted Moses in Egypt to rescue Israel from slavery and lead them to the Promised Land. God planted David to save Israel from a king who was consumed by jealousy. And after the exile was over, Christ will plant Paul, literally, tossing him off a horse onto the ground to bring the gospel to the Gentiles. Jesus tells us seeds will be planted. Plants will grow and bear fruit. A tiny mustard seed will grow and provide shelter for birds and animals. Is this the kingdom of heaven, where, like the Garden of Eden, all our needs are met? Can we stay in this kingdom and be, as the psalm says, those who are planted in the house of the Lord, who shall flourish in the courts of God, who will still bear fruit in our old age? I was looking forward to retirement until I read that part of the psalm. Paul tells us, "For the love of Christ urges us on, because we are convinced that one has died for all, and he died for all, so that those who live might live no longer for themselves, but for him who died and was raised for them." Seeds in the physical sense provide the food that sustains us and the shelter that protects us. Seeds in the spiritual sense provide the faith that grows within, allowing us to bear fruit, loving one another, and using the gifts we are given, that the Lord may be pleased and we will prosper, bringing others to Christ. So are we the seeds that have been sown? Have we grown and are bearing fruit? Could we be more fruitful? Is this the kingdom of heaven? Are we still in the kingdom of heaven when we leave this building? Do we take the kingdom with us? If the answer is yes, what difference does it make? Or as one of my friends at men's breakfast would say at this point, so what? I've read and reread these scriptures many times, preparing for this homily. We're assigned these things months in advance, maybe 4 or 5 months. So we have that time to, what does this really say to me? And it really is amazing what comes out of rereading, particularly Paul, and beginning to understand the importance of what is being said. I have prayed for insight to hear the message I was to bring to you. I am convinced the answer to these questions is yes, if we make it our aim, as Paul says, to please Christ. My spiritual journey started about when I was 36. I'm a little bit older than that now. And I think the primary thing in the spiritual journey that I've taken is a number of things that I've been involved with where prayer became the only thing that I could come up with to deal with what I was faced with. One of the things that I learned was that writing a prayer is much more powerful than just thinking of something to say. And I felt the need to write a prayer for this homily. Lord, help me grow. Lord, help me please you. Lord, help me seek your presence in my life. Lord, help me forgive and accept forgiveness. Lord, let your words come alive in my heart, in my choices, and in my relationships. 6 or 7 years ago, I was asked, how has your prayer life changed? And I had to admit that it had not changed in many years. Shortly after that, I offered to pray for a friend who was going to an important meeting. During that meeting, I searched for a prayer in the Book of Common Prayer, and I found nothing that was appropriate. I tried creating a prayer without satisfaction. Finally, I asked, Lord, how should I pray? I got an answer. Jesus said, pray that she feels my presence and that I will provide words for her to say. I did over and over and felt a wonderful peace. Since then, I have prayed for a number of people back at the healing altar, at the healing service, and daily my list of people that I feel a need to pray for. And I've always found some sense of peace in those prayers, and sometimes there aren't any words involved in the prayer. It's just a presence. So my suggestion to you is try writing a prayer once a week And then for the rest of the week, read your prayer and see if the prayer changes or if you change. As a result of suggested reading for the healing ministry, we came across this book, Wings of Healing, by J. Wilmer Gresham. Dean Gresham was the first dean of the cathedral in San Francisco. He was also the founder of healing ministry in the Diocese of California. This is from the introduction to the book. In a note on the meaning of intercession, Dean Gresham could be summing up his own life and ministry. Being the instruments of God's life communication to others, we ourselves, quite unconsciously, are changed into the image of the divine intercessor, the master in the school of prayer. We learn the highest meaning of sharing, the sharing of his ministry of healing and help. And I'll conclude with something I memorized in high school. It's from Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He prayeth best who loveth best all things, both great and small, for the dear God who loveth us. He made and loveth all.